Hey everyone, Jeff Woods here. Welcome to the webinar. We're doing a quick audio video check before we formally kick this off, and I need your help. If you can see or hear me, please go ahead and put yes in the questions box. If you can see/hear me, yes. Hey Shannon, good to see you. Awesome, perfect. Well, we will go ahead and hit the record button for all the people that want to watch this or listen to this later, and we will get the show on the road. Oh, looks like it is. Kaylin, does it show that it's recording on your side?
It does. It does.
Well, then there we go. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to our monthly webinar. Every single month, we sit down, usually with a best-selling author, to talk about their book that's related to the one thing. And every now and then, we make a deviation from that plan because we believe there is someone that we think can bring even more value to you. And our guest today certainly fits that mold. Everything that we do here is in the business of time, specifically helping you better invest your time so you can achieve extraordinary results. And I'm curious, for those of you who are here live, this is going to be interactive. How many of you want to actually achieve something extraordinary in your life? If so, put me in the chat box or the questions box. Yeah. And here's the thing. If we want to achieve big things in our life, we have to really fundamentally understand that we don't succeed alone. And frankly, as humans, we don't live alone, right? We are social creatures, yet we were never actually taught how to succeed with the people that matter most to us. And this is why I'm so excited to have the conversation with the woman that you see on screen today. Wendy Papasan is a brilliant woman, amazing mother, loving wife, successful business owner, and also married to the tall and handsome Jay Papasan. But one of the best things so handsome. Oh. But one of the best things that we do every year is our couples goal setting retreat. And we actually have Wendy to thank for that because it started with her and it was her idea. So Wendy, I would love to go back 14, 15 years ago. What was going on in yours and Jay's world that made you say, hey, instead of us setting goals by ourselves, maybe we should actually do it together?
Yes, well, thank you for having me today, Jeff. Such an honor and a privilege to be talking about this topic, which is near and dear to my heart. And Jay and I have been doing the couples goal setting retreat probably since our kids were 1 and 2. So my daughter just turned 15 and my son is 16. So it's been quite a few years, 13, 14 years. And it started, I don't really know how I got it into my head to do it, but I remember thinking I definitely want to get away with Jay. I do love to travel, and we had a 1 and a 2-year-old, so I'm sure our lives were pretty hectic and stressful at that point. And honestly, you know, I had quit my job, and I can remember having a feeling of loss of sense of self because so often our jobs are kind of who we are. And so I think I wanted to do it personally. So I went online, I copied a bunch of questions from different retreats that I saw, and I invited Jay to come away with me for the weekend. And I kind of created this framework, you know, this very daunting list of like 55 questions or whatever it was, and he agreed to join me, and the rest is history. So
take us back to where the two of you were in your lives professionally. What were some of your goals or aspirations at the time?
So I think back then we were really getting into real estate investing. Actually, you know, Jay had wrote The Millionaire Real Estate Investor, and I was doing some of that. That was my first foray into real estate. And so, you know, we were kind of blowing and going. I don't think we were taking much care of our health. I mean, we had 2 young kids, so I feel like we just weren't either of us very healthy at that point. And I'm sure we were just tired, and you know, Jay was busy with work, so just all the normal things, you know, all the normal things that every couple goes through, and you know, just a desire to get on the same page and just take time away and make our lives better.
I know for a lot of people, this idea of sitting down, if they have a significant other, there can be some limiting beliefs that pop up around what if the other person isn't a goal setter? What do I do if our goals aren't the same? Do you remember what your thoughts were going into it, or some of the struggles that you guys had at the beginning?
Well, I think, Jeff, you need to sell the benefits, right? If you've got someone who's not a goal setter, I don't think you frame it like, hey, here's this 55 question document that we're going to plow through this weekend and come up with a plan on Sunday with it. I mean, I think you say, hey, honey, I love you. And, what do you think about a romantic weekend away? Just the two of us. And while we're there, maybe I have a few things I want to talk to you about. And, that first night, you want to relax, have dinner, get romantic, all those things.
Well, I think there's something. Yeah, that's right. Well, I think there's something important there that for those of us that identify as goal setters, the idea of setting goals with a significant other, or if we don't have one, a business partner or a team or a friend, that's exciting. And for somebody that is not the goal setter, that may not be super appealing to them. And I remember Jay was saying that if you are that goal setter, oftentimes life with you is like a roller coaster. But there's ups, there's downs, there's turns, there's loop-de-loops. But for the person that's with you that may not be that goal setter, it's like going on the roller coaster blindfolded. You don't know when the up is. You don't know when that down's coming. You don't know when all of a sudden you're going to turn right. And it's a bit of whiplash. And I think for those people, Wendy, you said it really well, like, hey, let's go have a romantic weekend where we can get away, we can relax. I'd love to have some awesome conversations.
Let's focus on each other. Yeah, let's focus on each other. Yeah, that can be really powerful. And I think you need to remember that, maybe if you're a natural goal setter, goal setting is a muscle that you can develop over time. And, for those of you that are listening that are entrepreneurs or work in a place where goal setting is a natural part of what you do every day, and the other partner isn't, they can develop that goal setting muscle over time. But it's just like any other muscle. You're not going to go in and deadlift 250 pounds the first time you're in the gym. You're going to start really slow. So that first weekend away, you want to start, sell the benefits, enjoy your time together, and start really slow.
I'll say, I think this is Amy's in my 4th year doing this now. The mistake that I made is that in the first year, I said, we have to do everything that's in the framework. Mm-hmm. And I violated the advice I give all the time, like think big, go small, trust the dominoes will fall. I was like, oh, no, we're going to think big and we're going to act big.
We're going to knock this out.
I have to do it all. And Amy's not a goal setter. And there was resistance there. And this last year was the first time where I threw it all out the window and just said, let's go small. Let's start with just some of those questions that you and Jay have come up with. And it facilitated some amazing things. And what's happened in our marriage.
Was the first time you started with the questions?
Well, even a blind squirrel finds it. I'm dense. Well, I think for everybody.
Well, I personally, it's been fun for me to watch Amy, because I get to see her, and we meet once a month. We talk about your financial goals, and it's been fun to watch her. It's been fun to watch her develop her goal setting muscles, because at first she was completely tuned out. I mean, she really was. She was like almost rolling her eyes at every meeting, and now she's very engaged, very present, very much your partner in crime. I mean, she's never going to approach goal setting the way you do, Jeff, but nobody probably approaches anything the way you do. So it's been great to watch. And I mean, I think you guys are proof positive of that you just can't, you got to start small.
Yeah. So take us back to your and Jay's early days setting goals. What were some of the big goals that you set at the time?
So Jay and I have always been goal setters, but what's interesting too is that bigger thinking is also a muscle, and now, we just had our goal setting session a couple weeks ago. It was awesome. And we know exactly what we're doing. And we're like super efficient, so that we could spend more time at the pool and less time on, figuring out what our goals are. And so our goals started really small too, so bigger thinking is also a muscle. We have a big 26-page document now that we come out of every goal setting session with. And if I was to show it to someone who is just starting out, It would be so intimidating. But literally that first session, we came up maybe with like a half page or three-quarters of a page of things that we wanted to implement. And so just understand all of that's just, time on the task over time. It's just the one thing in practice, because we've been doing it now for, 14, 15 years, which is a long time. Which is a really, really long time.
And here's the thing, we've communicated, but I want to just drive it home. Having a relationship with somebody where you think big together, where you set goals together, where you have a relationship with each other and your goals together, does not start by doing everything. I literally made that mistake for 3 years. You started small with just the questions, and then the questions might have led to some wealth building goals, which might have led to some business goals, and it's literally over a decade and a half, you have come up with a fairly robust system, because your worlds are also have gotten so much bigger.
So much bigger, yeah. But the reason our worlds have been able to get bigger like that without us, getting divorced, is partly because of the goal setting retreat. We work a lot on our marriage. We are very purposeful about the habits that we put into place around our marriage. And this is one habit. And it doesn't always look the same, because sometimes life is just different. Sometimes we get to go to Nashville and we stay at an Airbnb for 3 days, and it's like idyllic and we get to walk around the city. And sometimes it's like last year, where we literally like ran out of time. We had to do it at home, which I don't recommend. Hurried in an afternoon, and yet it's all been really powerful. So it doesn't have to look a certain idyllic way, but actually doing it and spending time together and being purposeful is what is just the most important thing.
You've said it a few times, thinking bigger. What does that mean? And how does somebody begin the journey to thinking bigger?
Mm-hmm. Well, of course, we got a big gift. Jay works with a billionaire, and you do too. And I think the quickest way to change how you're thinking is to surround yourself with the right people. And I mean, that's why you started your other podcast, and that's why you took this job. And it's just so smart. And it's the gift I've gotten through Keller Williams. I've got to meet a lot of really big thinking people. Like, I just went on a retreat with my basically my tribe, my tribe of women who lead big real estate businesses around the country. And just spending a week with them and talking with them and learning about their life is unbelievable. It's just a lot of bigger thinking. And you could sit around people like that and have dinner with them, and you think, wow, well, they're just regular people. They're not like, Gary Keller is amazing, but he's not like Superman. He doesn't like fly around the world, and he's just a human being who's put some habits into place over time. And so that's really how you think bigger, is you surround yourself with different people. I mean, that's one of the amazing things about the One Thing community, right? Is you go in there and there are people asking big questions and doing big things, and you think, wow, well, if that person can do that, well, then I can do it too. So
it's interesting how we normalize whatever's around us in terms of our environment and the people, and we grow into the conversation. I remember very specifically back prior to getting in business with Jay and Gary, the conversations that my peers were having were certain types of conversations. And then you simply just shift who you're having the conversations with, and they can be so different. They can be so much bigger. They go, wait a minute, they're asking these questions that to me are blowing my mind, but to them it's completely normal. And we grow into those conversations. And I think there's immense value in there, because every single one of us wants to have an amazing life. And I think a lot of us struggle to stop and ask bigger questions, to smell the roses, to search for the answers. That's where the growth is.
Yeah, most of us are just on the treadmill, going. And for a lot of us, this pandemic has been a pause. And hopefully you've used some of it to think different, think about what you want, think about what's important. I know you guys have, for sure. And I think if you don't have thinking, and the bigger your life gets, actually, Jeff, the more thinking time you really need. And it seems counterintuitive, but the bigger your life gets, the more you need time for thinking.
I'll share this because this is actually kind of a cool moment for me. When Amy and I did our couples retreat last year, we asked the question, what matters to us someday? And the answer was be closer to mountains. And at the time, my thought process was as long as I was running this company, I had to be in Austin because that's what Jay and Gary are.
Mm-hmm.
COVID
Mm-hmm.
forced us all to become virtual. And I remember Amy and I were driving one day and we went, do we really have to be here? And we were in the process of taking the company virtual, and it led to a conversation with Jay and then with Gary where they're like, no, you don't have to be here. This is the first public interview I've done where I am staring out a new window looking at snow-covered blue spruce trees because we're now in Denver.
Amazing. I
That,
know. I'm so happy for you guys.
that someday goal became a before year end goal, which is it's meant a lot to our family. We would not have had this happen if we hadn't done the retreat last year, if we hadn't gotten on the same page, and if we hadn't identified that the one thing we could do this year was to take one trip to the mountains, which of course with COVID, I remember Amy saying, well, we said we were going to go to the mountains. What are we going to do about it? We would have never even asked that question had we not had
Yeah,
the, which then forced everything else. And here we are.
I love it. Yeah, congrats.
Thanks. I'm curious, what are the things that you now have in your life today that frankly you just go, holy smokes, none of this would have been possible if we hadn't started doing this?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of things. So much of our wealth has been built as a result of intentionality around the goal setting. We just bought our 9th rental property. We have a big goal of having 10 rentals, and so we just bought our 9th one. Our ranch, for sure. Our ranch was on our goals for many years, and we finally had an opportunity to buy one. And now we have, actually, it's so weird. We have had so many weird experiences on the ranch. We were out there last week, and we had a neighbor come and take 8 of these like endangered species off the ranch to put on his ranch. And the whole time I was like, what a weirdo you are, Wendy. You have all this weird stuff happening, but that is a big life, you get to do weird stuff. And so the ranch, I'm sure some decisions around schooling for our kids. Our kids go to a super cool school called Acton Academy. And I'm sure if we hadn't had those conversations, we may not have ever pulled them out of public school. We might have just kind of gone with the flow. So there are many things. Our house, there's so much intentionality around remodeling our house. Originally, when we bought this house, we wanted to buy a house with a pool. I mean, the list goes on and on. All the places we've traveled. A few years ago, we created a big bucket list for all of our travel, and we put it on Evernote, and we organized it by when we wanted to go according to the ages of our children. So that's on there. We took an amazing trip to Africa last year. That was a result of that. So yeah, I mean, it's a big part of our big life.
The thing that I'm hearing here, Wendy, is a life by design rather than a life by default.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I really believe the definition of wealth is enough passive income to fund your perfect life. And so your perfect life is your perfect life. I'm not going to tell you what your perfect life is. Like, my perfect life isn't moving to Denver and being in the mountains. Like, that's not for me. And if that's your dream, then go for it. We only get one. And everything is possible. It's all possible with enough intentionality and focus. And I think that's it's the big secret, is like, you don't have to just do what everybody else does. You get to live your own life, but you have to choose. And that's part of what the goal setting retreat is about. It's about choosing. And most people never take the time to choose. And so instead of choosing, they just get what life hands them.
I love that. And folks, by the way, for those of you who are here live, please submit questions, because I've got Kaylin on the other side who will throw them my way, because we definitely want to make sure we customize this to you. While those questions come in, Wendy, I want you to walk us through what your and Jay's prep looks like for your retreat. And I'm going to preface by saying, folks, we're teaching at the top of the class here. They're 14, 15 years in. It started small, but I want you to understand what this can grow into.
Mm-hmm. Well, so some of our prep is, we set the agenda. I like a well-run meeting. And sometimes Jay is like, I just want to watch the football game this afternoon. I'm like, chop, time to go. But I set the agenda for what we want to accomplish, which is the first intentionality around it. And if you guys don't know what that is, there's a good framework. I guess it's Kick-Ass Guide to Goal Setting or wherever that is on the onething.com. And then I really think about, we come up with some questions, and I think about some things that we just need to talk about. Like, I'm trying to think of this year. Obviously this year was COVID. And so some things looked really different. I wanted to get intentional about our vacations for the end of the year, because we haven't really taken many vacations this year because of COVID. And I'm like, I'm not going to let this happen. We are going on vacation no matter what, because we have a kid who's a junior in high school. We have like 1 year left with him, and we basically didn't get any vacations this year. So that was real intentional. And then I do prep work around my businesses too. I mean, we used to do a lot more meaty work around some of our businesses, but now we do that with our teams now. So I have, multiple GPSs for multiple businesses. I always want to talk about our investments because I'm the main driver behind that. So I have lots of ideas that I need Jay to like kind of sign off on, or we need to brainstorm. So it really depends on the year of what we need to talk about, but
the thing that
you don't have to be that prepared either,
You can show up and just start asking questions, which, by the way, we've alluded to these questions a few times. I see it in the questions box. If you guys go to the onething.com, that's with the number 1 in the URL. If you click on the free stuff tab, the very first thing you will see is a kick-ass guide to your couples goal setting retreat. These are the questions. And they've grown over time from where Wendy started, but these are a log of questions that if all you wanted to do was sit down and just start asking some of the questions, they do not all matter equally, you can start there. That's scratching the surface of what we deliver in the retreat, because the retreat is identifying your core values, setting a someday vision for your life, establishing 5-year goals, 1-year goals. If you need a GPS, creating the GPS. If you need a 411, creating the 411, actually opening up a planner and time blocking your vacations for the year, and you do it together. And it's not just for couples. This year we have a couples retreat, November 14th to 15th, November 21st and 22nd. We are doing a retreat specifically for individuals and teams. It's all virtual this year. It is recorded. You will have access through the end of the year. If you wanted to join us, it's theonething.com/setmygoals. But you can get the guide there if that's where you want to start. Wendy, I'm curious, what are the biggest mistakes somebody's likely to make if they just try going at this?
Well, I don't think you want to cram it down your partner's throat. That's not fun. Nobody wants to do that. And it's not really about, it's not about being super serious and sticking to the agenda the whole time. It's really about being intentional with your partner and remembering why you fell in love with them and having a romantic weekend together. And then also the goal setting part of it can be a romantic part of it. So just follow the framework, which is the first evening, have a nice dinner, right? You're not really talking about goal setting. You're just having a nice dinner. You're looking into each other's eyes. You're having a glass of wine. You go back to your hotel room. And then you wake up the next morning, maybe you go for a walk together, whatever that looks like for you, and then really start to dig into it. But then there's the promise of like maybe a massage later, or you get to sit by the pool, or whatever those sort of relaxing things are. And then just try to do the best you can, and then take the answers to that and use that as a foundation. So I think the other mistake would be to like take the information that you guys get and then really not do anything with it. So what we do is we've created like a business GPS for our family. And then we put that on our 411s, which is, most of you guys probably know what that is by now. And it's got personal and professional. And then the other mistake that we've made is coming up with ideas, but then nobody's taking action on it. So like usually I handle the investment property. So this year it's like we were going to do these certain things with our wealth building, and it's like, okay, that's on Wendy's plate. And then there are certain things that Jay's going to handle and take over. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So
just having that relationship with your goals, like you talk about.
and that's been the biggest shift for us is setting the goals is one thing, but then how you date them throughout the year. And I will say the huge shift for Amy and I this last year was 411s, going to the gym on Sundays, sitting by the pools, opening up our 411s, and we both come prepared having already done ours. But then we can say, hey, here's the things that I think I need to be responsible for this next week. Here's where I need your help. And it's brought so much clarity and alignment. It's just crazy. It's like, oh my gosh, how long did it take us to get here? It's crazy.
It's huge. Yeah, it's everything. And I think,
Yep.
they talk about communication, what Susan Scott is, communication is the relationship essentially. And so for us, it's like, what are the habits that we've put in place to make our relationship better? And then what's the communication flow that we use? So yeah, because it gets hectic.
What
Life
are
is
some of
hectic. And then some of our habits.
Yeah, what were some of those habits that you guys intentionally put in place?
Well, we work out together 3 days a week in the morning, which is great. And we're for sure partners when we're working out. We do a lot of weightlifting now, so that's fun. And then we talk about other stuff. We typically do the 411 on Sunday. We don't always sit down and do it together, but we do try to have a family meeting, some kind of family meeting, which is like, hey, this is what's happening this week. To be honest, those have kind of fallen off the radar because we don't have as many kid activities, or it's just a lot. We have a lot less going on, which is kind of nice. And then of course the couples goal setting retreat, and then we do date night on Wednesday, which we've been doing for over 15 years. And probably we've gone on 500 dates together, 500 Wednesday dates.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
It's a lot of dates.
I have a
Yeah.
bunch. I have a bunch of questions that have come in. And by the way, folks, this is your time, so please keep submitting them. What are some of the must discuss questions and conversations that you would suggest people have with a plus one?
Ooh. Well, I guess it depends on your relationship. However, I think it's kind of like, what do they say? How do you eat an elephant? Well, no, what do they say? Eat the big frog first. Whatever, eat that frog first. I can't remember. Anyway, do the hardest thing first. Yeah. What is it?
Eat the elephant one bite at a time, or eat that frog first.
Yeah, one bite at a time. Then I forget what the frog one is. If anybody remembers that, put it in the chat box. But I think for sure finances are probably the number one thing that most people never talk about. And it's the number one reason that people get divorced. And it's the number one reason people fight. I mean, everything I ever learned about money was from my parents fighting about money, because I had one parent who was a saver and one person who was a spender. And so luckily I became a saver. And I always had a real scarcity mindset around everything. And so really tackling those finance questions, if you're in debt, like, let's figure out a plan to get out of debt and come up with a net worth goal for yourself, and think about where you want to be, because nobody asks those questions like, hey, do we want to be in poverty when we're, age 65 or older? I mean, only 33% of Americans have saved nothing for retirement, and 56 have only saved $10,000 or less. That's scary, and all it takes is one catastrophe for you to really be on the other side. And so I would say start there.
Yeah,
that helps a lot.
I will say,
you can only do one thing, really.
The thing that we've learned from you and Jay, the net worth habit, if all, like, just the act of on the first of the month, we use mint.com. It just tells us our net worth and we track it on an Excel sheet. And month after month, just to see, did our net worth go up or did it go down? And why? Just that one thing really transformed our relationship together when it came to finances.
Yeah. Well, and I think the other thing that you need to do is you need to spend a little time understanding the why, everyone's why behind money. because we're all patterned, right? That's the thing about humanity, is we're all patterned by our experiences growing up. That's how we pass things on as humans. It's just basic biology. And so about 70% of our behavior is patterning. It's what we grew up with. We do it all unconsciously. And all of our patterning around money is how we grew up and what our parents told us. And so for a lot of us, we have a very negative story running around in our mind about money, but it could be a different negative story than our partner. So kind of understanding that, like I always had a scarcity mentality, which was like, I need to be so thrifty. And I still am that way. Like Jay and I still get into fights. He probably tells you this. Like I just have weird ideas around money. And Jay's like, I just want to buy a new Kindle. I'm like, what's wrong with your old Kindle? He's like, Wendy, it's like $50. And so like I just have weird things around it. And he had more of an abundance mentality, but he's also got, kind of some things going on. So just understanding everybody's why around money, and taking the time to even ask your partner, like, well, why do you always freak out, right, when this happens? Or why do you want to, why are we on the same page here?
Yeah, that's good. Good. From Ryan, not a question, but just a comment. I love seeing how genuine and humble Wendy is. I'm really glad I joined this meeting. So thanks, Wendy. Debbie asked a really good one I like. Are you ever too old to start? Because it takes time to build wealth.
Mm-hmm. No. Wouldn't it be terrible if I just said yes, don't bother? Just forget it.
What do you say to that?
Just blow your money.
Yeah. What do you say to the person that might?
Yeah. Well, let me tell you. I'll give you an example. So one of my very best friends, her name is Via. She is 50. She just turned 50, and she's finally getting on an intentional wealth building journey, and it's exciting to watch because she was in debt, and now her net worth's about $250,000. And that's because she's been very, very intentional, and it's fueling some of her, her side hustles and things like that. So no, I don't think it's ever too late to start building wealth. No. Yeah. You might have to hustle more. I mean, it's sure a lot easier. I just opened up a IRA for my 15-year-old. She did some work for me at my work. And she asked me how much she was getting paid. And I said, oh, well, great news, Veronica, you're getting paid $77,000. She was like, what? I said, the only catch is you're not going to get the money for 55 years. She was like, wait, no. But I showed her how we're going to put $1,000 in an IRA now that she's 15. And in 55 years, without us doing anything, it's going to be worth $77,000 without putting in another penny. So if you start early, it's definitely a lot easier.
I tried to have that conversation with Daphne, by the way. She's 7. And I told her how $1,000 was going to turn into 93,000. She's like, no, Daddy, I want the money now. I said, okay, I can give you it now, but let me help you understand, by having it in your wallet versus in this investment, it's going to cost you $92,000. And her mind went, I kid you not, when we got here, it snowed the first day we were here, and she said, Daddy, I'm going to go knock on people's doors. I'm going to shovel their driveway for money. She came back with $43 and she said, here, Daddy, invest this.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. Claudia, what would you suggest when one partner is hesitant to participate or plan, especially if we're in different seasons of life? One person's 64 and one person is 49.
Well, I would frame it differently. So I think even if you're in your 60s, I would hope you still have dreams for your life. I mean, hopefully you're not married to someone who's like, I have no more dreams. And so really framing it like, hey, I want to find out what your dreams are. I do a lot of goal setting myself, and I'm really curious about where you want to go and what your dreams are. Where do you want to spend? I mean, it's not like they're going to, even if you're in your 60s, you're not on death's doorstep. So it's like, well, how do you want to spend the next 25 years of your life? I'm curious about it. And that's how you initiate the conversation and say, hey, we're gonna have a weekend away, and I'm gonna be there, and I want to find out all your hopes and dreams.
Claudia, I'll share with you a few things here. One, how small can you go? I mean, if all you did was go out to dinner one night and you had a few of those questions in your back pocket from that kick-ass guide and you just asked them over dinner, that's knocking down a lead domino, right?
Mm-hmm. That's huge.
I have a friend who came to the very first goal setting retreat that we ever facilitated, and he was not able to get his wife on board. She had zero interest, but he said, you know what, the one thing I can do is I can show up and set my goals as an individual to be the best version of myself. And that next year, his transformation was so apparent to his wife that she said, I'll come with you. And she was hesitant, but she got an amazing amount out of it. So again,
Wow.
Wendy and Jared proof of this. They've been at this for 15 years. View it as an annual ritual. And how do we every single year just do a little bit more, a little bit more?
Yep, that's so true. Yeah, well, I'm just looking at these questions. I just pulled this up. Yeah, I mean, any one of these questions. Is our marriage headed in the right direction? What a great question. Like, if that was your only question you went over at dinner, that could be super powerful. Yeah, so it could be even one question. So
Andrea said, my husband's doing the retreat with me, but he's not excited about it. We did it virtually around New Year's this year as well. I'm more of a goal setter than he is. How can I help him and spark some of the excitement?
yeah, well, it's like I said, sell the benefits. Hey, we're gonna go, we're gonna get away, we're gonna have a romantic weekend, we're gonna talk about our hopes and dreams. And at the end of the weekend, you and I are gonna be closer together. How does that sound?
Andrea,
And you guys, don't pull up this 5-page, however long thing this is. I'm looking at this thing and just think you're gonna chug through it all weekend. Like, that is horrible. That's not what you're gonna do. That does sound scary, right? You're not gonna just like machine gun fire these questions at your partner. So I mean, maybe go through and pick the top 10 that work for you the first time, right?
yeah. And Andrea, I would ask questions. The moment you ask a question, the future changes because you suddenly provide a lens for them to see the world through. And if you were to ask him a question like, what would it look like if we had the most extraordinary marriage ever? What would have to happen for that to be the case? If you just asked him that question and then showed him how going through this process helps you take steps toward it, it's his idea. You just asked the question. You just gave him a lens to look at his life through, and now you reverse engineer and say, I believe this can help us get there. I would start with some questions. Cheryl asked,
I love it. And
go ahead.
yeah, go ahead. No, I'm good.
Cheryl asked, do your goals change every 3 months? How specific are you with deadlines for the goals that you've set?
Great question. So I would say, first of all, that there are things that come up in the goal setting retreat that feel important that never get done. So there's that. There are things that are on there year after year that we never do. So that's just part of it, and that's okay. And sometimes we come back and we're like, we took no action steps toward that. That was obviously not important to us at all. So let's just take it off the list. And then I would say, again, it's really important to take what you've done and the things that you've agreed upon together, and then somebody has to take ownership over those. And you have to have that continuing relationship where you check in with them. And sometimes there'll be a global pandemic and some of your priorities will change drastically, and that's just life.
Mm-hmm.
So.
John asked, what is net worth? How do I calculate it?
Well, so your net worth, John, is everything you own, right? Everything you own, all your assets. So money in the bank, your house, any rental properties, your car, 401k, all your assets, everything you own, minus everything you owe, all your debt. So credit card debt, mortgage debt, medical bills that you have, student loans, and then you take that everything you own and you subtract out everything you owe, and then that is your net worth. And that's really what is very significant about that number, because I know Jeff talked about how that habit has been really important to them. The reason that's significant is that we are taught to think about income. And your parents probably told you, hey, John, I want you to be a doctor, I want you to be a lawyer, I want you to be a dentist. And the reason they said that is because those are careers that have a lot of income. But at the end of the day, if you make $250,000 and you spend $250,000 plus $1, you're in debt. And if you look at that list of the Forbes richest 500 people, it's not the richest doctor, it's not the richest lawyer, it's not the richest dentist, right? It's people who own businesses, people who have significant real estate holdings, right? So that is that, and that's what they track there, is their net worth, because your income can go away. But if you own 10 rental properties free and clear, nobody can take that away from you. Nobody can fire you from that. And so a lot of people make the mistake of thinking like wealth is your income, but that's not a measure of wealth. The measure of wealth is your assets that you own.
Mm-hmm. And it's eye-opening for people when if they've never calculated net worth before, to calculate it and find out, is it a positive number or a negative number? And by the way, there's zero judgment in it. What's the baseline?
Yeah.
And then on the first of the next month, ask, what's my net worth? Did it go up or did it go down? What's my net worth? Did it go up or did it go down? And it really shifts the way you look at what you do with your money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because if you buy a new car, the second you drive it off the lot, your car is worth about $5,000 less than when you bought it. So your car immediately, so your net worth goes down. The second you buy a sofa, which is not something you track, it's not an asset, it's it's a piece of furniture. So if you spend $1,000 on a sofa and your net worth was $5,000, then all of a sudden you have a net worth of $4,000. You're like, wait, what? I'm not going to buy that sofa.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'll share, like, in the spirit of just being transparent, we just bought this house here in Denver. And for Amy and I to have the conversation of what does this do to our net worth, she saw how the moment that we bought this house, our net worth jumped because we got it undervalued. She's like, oh, snap, that did that? Okay, cool. And now she looks at the things that she wants to remodel, and she understands if we say yes to doing these things from furniture or remodel standpoint, the net worth very likely will actually go down, which is making her look at what she says yes to in a different light. And that to me that's it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I read a really good book recently. It's called The Psychology of Money by Norman Housel. Yeah, such a good book. And in it, they talk about a janitor, his name's Ronald, and you guys probably heard of it. He actually went, after he died, he was a janitor and he donated about $6 million. He gave $2 million to his kids and $4 million to the local library and hospital. And when he died, everybody wanted to emulate him all of a sudden. But when he was alive, nobody wanted to be like Ronald, right? Living on a janitor's salary and probably saving every penny that he ever made. And yet, most people, when they think of being a millionaire, they think about being able to spend $1 million. But really, it's the exact opposite. It's about keeping $1 million. That's what being a millionaire is. And we also don't have good models for wealth. So in this book, they talk about being rich versus wealthy. And you can see people that are quote unquote rich, they have a fancy car and they have fancy clothes on. And wealthy people have assets and you can't see them. You can't see those assets. They're hidden because it's a rental property that they own.
I literally rewound the book like 3 times when it said, rich is what you see, wealth is what you don't. I was like, oh, it's so true.
I love that. I know. Well, and then they have that example of a Lamborghini. If somebody pulls up and in a Lamborghini, you think, oh God, they're so rich. But really all you know about that person is they're literally $100,000 poorer because they just spent $100,000 on an asset that's going to go down in value. So,
Big shift. Salima asked a
yeah.
question, which when you do this retreat, do you set any personal goals, and how do you support each other with these?
Yeah, we set lots of personal goals. That's a huge part of what we do. In fact, we set goals around our health. We set goals around just even like our social life. Do we want to have more people over? We set goals around our business. We set goals around our investments. We set goals around our charitable giving. And charitable giving goals, we've always done that. We do money we give, time we give, and money we raise. So every single year, we're always tracking that. Yeah, lots of stuff. Vacations, obviously. Yeah, big part of that's the fun part, you know? Yeah. Not just
Gloria,
the business. I mean, and that's the thing about the businesses is that, you know, Jay and I own several businesses together, but the businesses fund the fun stuff. And so if you don't have that fun stuff, like, why are you in business? What's the purpose of a big business if you can't have a big life with it?
that's right. That's right. Gloria asked a question in terms of what to expect, and I'm just going to kind of draw this out because she's like, do we just have dinner, or why is this a day and a half actual retreat for the one that we facilitate? And the thing I want you to understand is the first thing that we do is we sit down and we have to, one of the first things we're going to do is we're going to help you understand what are your core values. What are those top 3 things that really drive everything that you do? Like for Jay, it's family, faith, and abundance, or family, impact, and abundance. And if an opportunity isn't a 9 out of 10 for family, impact, and abundance in that order, it's an easy no. And being able to understand what your core values are and then what the core values are for your +1, massively important. Or if you're doing this with a team or a partner or friends, massively important. There's lots of other experts that we have that will be teaching you things, like Jay and Wendy are teaching things on wealth building. Susan Scott will be teaching something on how to have fierce conversations in your relationship. Keith Cunningham will be teaching something. We've got Chris Hogan from the Dave Ramsey Network, who's going to be teaching things about wealth. So we've got other experts that come in, but then we help you, we actually facilitate this, actually cast a vision for what you want your life to look like someday from now. And this is something that you will do as individuals, where you'll both individually ask the questions, but then you share the answers. And it's not so that your goals are the same. It's just so that you actually have, that's my attempt at drawing a magnifying glass. It's so you have insight into what matters more to each other. Wendy, when you did having a ranch, was that important to you?
No.
But
Still
it was important. But because it was important to Jay, when he wanted to do it, it was much easier for you to say yes to it. And that's all it's about. It's casting the someday vision and being able to share it with one another. Because once you're clear on what the someday vision is, we can then actually identify, great, where do we actually need to be 5 years from now to feel like we're on track for our someday vision? Folks, these are not easy things to stop and get clarity on. You have to have it facilitated correctly for you to search for the answers to these big questions. But once you have that direction, great, all of a sudden now you can say, okay, where do we need to narrow our focus for this next year? And here's the difference. If we had just set our goals looking forward, we could have seen all the things we could have done. But when you actually fly out to the future and get, okay, this is where I need to be someday from now, and based on that, here's where I need to be 5 years from now, all of a sudden that 1 year, it's really clear this is what we need to be saying yes to, and all this other stuff, that's distractions. And once you have your 1 year goals, now we get to ask the question, okay, great. Do we actually need a GPS, a business plan? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Great. Do we actually want to start doing 411s? Maybe yes, maybe no. But one thing we know we're going to do is we're going to time block. We're going to open up our calendar and we're going to understand, all right, if this is the month, when do we actually want to do date nights? When do we actually want to take a vacation? What are the things that matter to us? And place those boulders in the stream before you get biased by all the other stuff in your world. Just do that first. This is why it's a day and a half long experience. And we really walk you through the framework. And if you don't get it all done, that's totally cool. But it's helping you understand the rhythm, because then you can walk out and ask the question, How will we have a relationship with our goals? And you can set that rhythm up. So the thing that I will share for you, I'm going to come back to my camera now. If you guys want to learn more about this, I will take you to the URL right now. Kaylin, I actually think you have to make me the presenter for it to let me do this. If you go to the onething.com/set my goals, that's with the number 1 in the URL, the onething.com/set my goals. You can, I'll show you, oh, here we go. Share my screen, yay. I love technology. When you go to the onething.com/set my goals, here's what it's going to do. It's going to ask you which experience resonates most with you. Are you setting your goals as a couple? Are you doing it with a team? Are you doing it solo as an individual? We've got an experience for each one of these. But once you hit the page, you can learn more about what this is. If you click the register now, it just takes you down to the options. You really have 3 ways you can join us. General admission, you get access to both retreats, the couples retreat and the individuals and teams retreat, and the recordings behind it, as well as the goal setting master course. For those of you that are already annual members, you actually get to come for free. So that's already included in your membership. You just got to email us at events@theonething.com and we will grant you access to it. If you want, you can see the price between these two is nothing. The difference between this one is you get everything within general admission, but you also get a full year of training and support following it. And then VIP, the difference between those is VIP, we do, you get some physical swag in the mail. We facilitate these awesome exclusive masterminds. So you can select whichever one is going to work best for you. And if you're not in the position this year to actually attend the virtual retreat, go to theonething.com, click on the free stuff page, download the guide. Just start there. But those are the options for you. I'm going to look, Kaylin, do we have any, what are some of the final questions that we might have? Wendy, what would you say to somebody who's, if somebody's having doubts about doing this, what would you say to them?
I would say just show up like anything else. It's like, it's like the first time you take an exercise class, right? It's scary. You're uncomfortable. Maybe you don't look great in your exercise pants. And just come anyway, even though you know that you're going to be a little bit uncomfortable, and have a little bit of an open mind and just go through the motions, even, you know, lift your legs up and do the jazzercise or whatever you're doing, and just try it. And at the end of the first day, see how your mind has opened up, because remember, you are the sum, you're the average of the people that you spend time with. And so even virtually spending time with people who are thinking bigger and who are on the same page with their spouse, and maybe they're in year number 2 or they're in year number 3 or year number 10 of doing this, is going to give you that little bit of confidence so that you can show up the next day and do it again, even though, again, it's uncomfortable, it doesn't feel good. Some of these questions are they're uncomfortable, and that's okay. Just do it anyway, you know, and understand that everybody else is kind of feeling uncomfortable too. But that's really what success looks like. You know, everyone might be scared or uncomfortable, but the successful people do it anyway. So just show up and go through the motions, do the exercises, and then see what happens.
Yeah, there are a lot of questions about what's the difference between the couples retreat versus the one for individuals and teams. There's a question on, can I do this with my kid? Here's the thing, folks. These are the surprisingly simple truth behind extraordinary results. Not the surprisingly simple truth for extraordinary results for couples. Every single one of us would be served by understanding what our core values are. So whether you're doing this as an individual, whether you're doing it with a team, whether you're doing it with your kids, like I didn't even think about doing this with Daphne. She's 7. She's totally at the age that I think she could go through the core value deck and have conversations about that. I'm totally going to do it. Every single one of us can actually be asked some bigger questions and imagine, what do we want our life to look like someday from now? It's not about crystal clear clarity. It's about direction. And we can reverse engineer it to 5 years and 1 year, to the point that we might say, okay, what are some things that are really important to us that we want to put on our calendar so we can actually have a relationship with our goals? That's the point. These
Yeah.
are timeless principles.
And I would encourage you, if you have a partner who doesn't want to come by yourself. Kimberly Reeves, who a lot of you know, she's in the One Thing community. She's amazing. I got connected to her through the One Thing community, and she's my real estate partner in Minneapolis. And she came to the couples goal setting retreat by herself. And it's been fun to watch her over the last couple of years and how her relationship with her husband has changed. And he's a lot like Amy, just like, no, not for me. I don't know what this is, hocus pocus, all that stuff. And now they're getting closer and closer on the same page. So again, it's just time on the task over time, and come alone if you have a partner that doesn't want to join you, because it will be immensely valuable. And I know Kimberly would say the same thing. And I basically come alone because Jay's always up there presenting. So we do our own couples goal setting retreat. But the last few years when I've come, I've been by myself, or I brought a business partner with me. So it's immensely valuable whether you come alone, with a partner, with your spouse, all of the above.
Love that. Well, folks, we have a decision we get to make, which is you get to decide if the last hour of your time was an expense or an investment. I would like you to share which you would like it to be in the questions box. If you want it to be an expense, put expense. If you want it to be an investment, put investment. And yes, both retreats are virtual. You do not have to travel. You can literally fire it up on your computer. If you want to rock a Snuggie and sit down on the couch with a cup of cocoa, you do you. We're facilitating it totally virtually. It's also going to be recorded so that if you're not able to stick for the whole thing, or if the dates just don't conflict, you will have access to all of this through the end of the year. And again, it's theonething.com/setmygoals. And that's with the number one, theonething.com/setmygoals. So great, everybody wants it to be investment. So here's my question. How do you guarantee that this is an investment of your time? What do you have to do to guarantee that this is an investment of your time? Put your answer in the questions box. Take action, right? So here's the question. This might be a question you've never heard of before. What's one thing you can do such that by doing it, everything else would be easier or unnecessary? Based on the conversation today, what's the one thing you can do such that by doing it, everything else would be easier or unnecessary? Put your answer in the questions box. Time block my retreat. I love that, Tracy. And here's what I love about it. Tracy, all you got to do is open up a planner and put it down on there. That's it. That's a lead domino. That's beautiful. Sign up and show up. Awesome. Lead generation. Perfect. Time block it. Set my direction. Start working for Wendy. There we go, Wendy. This was recruiting time for you. Well, I actually do want to say something about that. You and Jay have said
where to find me.
Yep. Well, I do want to say something about this because who you work for matters. And we talk about wealth builders, who you determine wealth for in this retreat. You and Jay set a goal to create a certain number of net worth millionaires. Talk about that quickly.
Well, Jay and I came up with this goal of helping people become millionaires. We got such a gift working with Gary, and he's helped us grow our wealth so much. And so a couple of years ago, we were always saying that on stage and speeches like this. And I said to him, well, what are we really doing to help people? Like, it's great to say that, and that sounds so good, but what are we really doing? And so then we decided to start what we call the Hot Millionaire Club. So anybody who works for Jay or I, not because who doesn't want to be a hot millionaire? I mean, hello. And so then we started the Hot Millionaire Club, and we meet once a month. Not everybody comes. It's optional. Not everybody on my team comes. Not on everybody on Jay's team comes. Jeff is there, always great. He's a great participant, except when he messes up the book club book, reads a completely wrong book, which he did last week, which was very funny. Anyway, but we track our net worth, we have financial goals, and we have candid conversations about money. And I think the candid conversations about money for me are the best part, and the accountability, because Jay and I we're doing really well, and we need people around us to hold us accountable and push us too. So it's been great for us because it's really pushed us to do more and think bigger and continue to grow our wealth. So.
The reason I wanted her to share this is asking, this is something we facilitate in the retreat, but asking, who do you determine wealth for? Like I determine wealth for Jay and Wendy, and who determines wealth for you? And is that a fair exchange? And that's an interesting lens to look at your profession through. And like when somebody says, I need to work for Wendy, I'm sure they said it serious, but also tongue in cheek. But who you do business with matters, and you grow into the conversations around you. Based on that, do you need to make any changes in your relationships? Just going to throw that out there. All right, folks. Well, we are at the top of the hour, and since we're in the business of time, we're going to give it back to you. So thanks so much for investing your time with us. If you'd like to join us on the retreat, you do need to sign up like ASAP because the retreats are 2 weeks away. theonething.com/set my goals. And for those of you that are signed up, we are just so excited to work with you. And Wendy, thank you. Thank you for investing your time with us.
Looking forward to it. Bye, guys.
Bye.